Hello and welcome to the Getting Into Good Trouble podcast, where we make it our mission to challenge, question, and inspire you to do the same. My name is John Parks.
I'm Cade.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Luke.
And on today's episode, we will be discussing the consolidation of power in Tunisia.
Most of our information comes from our sources Al Jazeera, the Associated Press, Men's Rights Group, and Amnesty International, as well as many other online sources and articles. Thank you.
So, as a background, Tunisia used to have a dictator who had high unemployment rates and in general was a bad leader. People didn't like him. And so in 2019, a new election came and someone named Kais Saied was shown, and he won the election on his stances on anti-corruption.
This was supposed to be a success story for Tunisia, their first president being elected through free and fair elections, but now facing challenges with controversy of power grab.
In 2021, Kais Saied dissolved parliament, disbanded the government, and consolidated power. This means he took total control of Tunisia and ruled by decree.
On top of that, he decided to control the electoral branch to secure his position, and also making threats to the foundation of the Tunisian democracy.
Yeah, adding on to what Taylor said, he said that he could change the constitution and allow himself to be in office for as many terms as he wants.
There's a lot of potential consequences to this happening. A failing democracy could shift towards the erosion of democratic institutions in Tunisia.
Since he shut down the parliament, people haven't had as much freedom as they would like. They haven't been able to say or speak against him, and that's really outraging people.
Now, thousands of people are taking to the streets of Tunisia, demanding Kais Saied's resignation.
Yeah, there's palpable frustration from the people. They've been marching outside of buildings, shouting things, and having signs like "Out with Kais Saied," because they just don't want him in power anymore because he lied and betrayed their trust.
They're protesting for hopes for a better future and to return to the democratic process.
Yeah, they want more freedom. They want a real democracy. They don't want leaders who lied to them and then dissolve the parliament.
This led to a perfect storm of economic challenges for Tunisia. Inflation soared 9.1% and unemployment to 16% in the country.
And the purchasing power in Tunisia is eroding.
Since the inflation soared so much, people have been able to buy less, 9% less food, less clothes. So many necessities are being ruined by this power grab. Exactly.
Leading the opposition, the National Salvation Front / part of the dissolved parliament are taking action against this travesty and calling out Saied.
Even parties of the old parliament who hated each other are now banding together against Kais Saied.
John Parks, didn't they even say things like calling him like a coup or something?
Right.
Yeah, like...
Yeah, he talked about how, he said him overthrowing the government was equivalent to a coup because he, took control of the power of the government.
This heavily impacted Tunisia's reputation globally, causing international repercussions. Potential authoritarianism could affect investment, loans, sanctions, and tourism for the entire country.
Even recently, in, October, there's been an election. This is his third now, and people aren't allowed to say it, but they're most likely rigged. And he's been in office since 2019, and now it's 2025.
Haven't there been journalists arrested because of speaking out against him or organizing protests?
Yeah, over a dozen civil rights people, lawyers, journalists that spoke out have been arrested.
Wow.
Over 80 of his opposition have been arrested so that he could go back into power.
So he's been arresting his opposition, the other candidates, anybody who speaks out against him.
Yeah, that's
basically breaking his constitution.
That's part of the reason how the election was rigged.
Yeah.
So, altogether, they elected Kais Saied. Since then, he has been changing rules, dissolving branches, all to favor him in the next election so that he can rule again. And he's completely taken control of Tunisia, and people are calling action against Saied.
So far, there hasn't been any actual action against him. He's still in office. He is still in control of the government, There's still people being arrested, still news articles being made, and still people being forced out of opposition from him.
We're going to insert a clip of an interview conducted by our teammate John Parks with a teacher at Mount Vernon named Rick Van Wheely. He has a master's degree in history and political science from Leiden University in the Netherlands and from Emory University here in Atlanta. He's been teaching on the college and high school level for 20 years, and he's going to talk about the protests in Tunisia and how they relate to politics around the world.
Hello, I'm John Parks. What is your name?
My name is Rick Van Wheely.
Have you heard of the situation in Tunisia right now with the recent consolidation of power and the protests around them?
The recent consolidation of power? Are you talking about...
Past few years.
Tunisia was one of the only successful countries for a while in moving towards democracy, but there's challenges, and just like in most of the other countries in the Arab world that were part of the Arab Spring, democratic experiments were often short-lived.
Right. So, what are some key factors that allow authoritarian regimes to consolidate and maintain power in the past?
Let's look at Tunisia. First say that why were they more successful than other Arab countries is probably because they had a stronger civil society, had a more well-developed Western educational system, the rights of women were stronger, and religion didn't play as much of a powerful role in society. Now, these factors can change usually when people have a decent life, they support the regime in charge, whether that's a democratic regime or an authoritarian regime. But if things go south, if the economy is doing bad, there will be protest, and that is often an opportunity for a leader also to take power and do away with democracy, and we see it all around the world.
Mm-hmm. And what role does public protest play in resisting and reversing actions that dissolve democratic institutions like that?
They can play a big role, but they can play a role too in getting rid of democracy. The people can come up and protest a certain move from the regime to a more authoritarian state. Authoritarian regimes can also crack down on protest. We see that especially in Russia, right? The rise of Putin as an authoritarian leader. Are there protests? There have been plenty of protests, but it's very dangerous to do so. And there's counter-protest as well, supported by the regime, right? So, can people play a role in? Sure, but a protest is only successful if it succeeds in overthrowing a regime. If it doesn't do that, people end up in jail, end up being executed, and being called rebels or terrorists.
What are the potential big consequences internationally of potential power consolidation towards an authoritarian leader?
In Tunisia specifically?
Yeah.
What would be the consequences internationally of that? Tunisia is a fairly small country, right? And most of its neighbors are already authoritarian regimes. I don't know how much of an effect it has. It would be sad in the sense of, here is one example of a country that actually looks to be on its way to becoming more of a democracy. And if that fails as well, it just is a message to certainly the region, but also to the rest of the world, that it's very hard to create a democracy out of in a region that is mostly characterized by authoritarian regimes. regimes.
How do leaders justify consolidating power to their citizens? And as the international community, have there been instances where this has happened in the past?
How do leaders... We live in a world where a lot of people like strong leaders. And so I think most leaders in authoritarian regimes do not often focus. They focus a little bit on why they will make the country better or greater, if you want. And at the same time, they look for scapegoats in society, saying, democracy doesn't work for us, or the previous government was a failure, and I'm gonna make it better for you. People that live very miserable lives or are desperate about their future, they're often willing to support a guy that will help them. That's how Hitler got his support in Germany. That is how Putin got elected in Russia or in the first place. And you see this happening all over the world, unfortunately. I also will say that with the rise of social media, leaders that are savvy in using social media can use it to sort of influence and manipulate the population. Hey, vote for me, I'm your guy, I'm the one that is gonna make your life better. And most people are not that well informed. And you see with the Russians, for example, they live in desperate times, and then they see someone like Putin, and this guy exudes physical strength and aggression, and they think, a strong leader is gonna help us. Unfortunately, people are very sensitive to that.
That's about today's episode on Tunisian power protests. A huge thank to Mr. Van Willy for sharing their insights and helping us unpack this complex issue. Tunisia's future is still being written, and conversations like these help us keep informed and engaged. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to follow us and check out more episodes for more information. Until next time, thank you for listening to the Getting Into Good Trouble podcast, where we make it our mission to challenge, question, and inspire you to do the same.